All right, it is another Tuesday, which means it's book club day over in the Grand Life Network. And I'm so excited to be meeting with the awesome ladies of the Grand Life Network who literally come together and put the work in network in so many ways. We meet once a month together to play a fun game and talk about our goals for that month, as well as dive into these mind elevating books where we meet every 2 weeks in order to dig into these books and talk about how we can apply what these lessons are into our actual lives. So this month we are going to be reading The Power of Two by Wagner and Gail Mueller. Now, this is something that I really wanted us to read because it says how to make the most of your partnerships at work and in life. And at that point, you only need two. And why did we need to talk about this book? Because we all already understand that. That's why we took it a point to say, hey, I'm going to put some time and effort into my network, and this book will help us figure out how to really make sure we're getting that return, right? Because sometimes it's not them, it's you. And if you know that it's not you, it's them, this will at least start helping you to understand what you can do in order to be the best partner in these partnerships, as well as how to identify the best partners in these partnerships. So I'm going to dive right in. During this beginning, we are going to be talking about let me see. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. But to get started, we are going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses that come in a partnership. Now, they did outline 8 really great things that each collaboration should come with as well. But again, like I said, this is something that one may think is very common sense, but we're going to reiterate it anyways. So it says, the 8 elements of a powerful relationship is complementary strengths, a common mission, fairness, trust, acceptance, forgiveness, and communicating. Oh, and unselfishness is the last one. So again, those are the 8 elements that make a powerful relationship. So diving into that, I wanted to again start with how we have to reflect on what we bring to that partnership in order to start that partnership, because it starts with us. So reading into the book now, it says, and this is coming from chapter 2, which is titled Complementary Strengths. So on page 24, it starts by saying, the pressure to be all things to all people is pervasive. But doing just a few things exceptionally well is a better path to success than spreading yourself thinly across dozens of disciplines, becoming, as they say in Spanish, apprentice of everything, master of nothing. And that's something that we've all heard many, many times, and all have already said, something we've identified and have struggled with in our own lives, where we have so many things we want to do, but it starts with mastering one thing. So going on to read, it says, when people are asked to rate themselves, researchers often find that they call it the Lake Wobbagon effect. Nearly everyone believing that they are above average on just about everything. So for example, a majority of Swedish drivers think they drive better than average, while most undergraduates believe they have above average popularity. People scoring in the bottom 25% on tests of humor or grammar and of logic grossly overestimate their test performance and ability. So on the flip side of this phenomenon is that people who excel at a task often think that their work is unexceptional. They take for granted what comes naturally to them, assuming that others can perform the task just as well. Their overestimation of others' abilities lead them to suffer what one study called the undue modesty about their own strengths. As a consequence of these misconceptions, most people see themselves as more well-rounded than they really are, above average where they are weak, and close to average where they are incredible. But they're wrong. Instead of complete circles, people are puzzle pieces. Some aspects of their aptitude dramatically exceed those of the general population, while other qualities are well below the mean. Great partners know where they're strong and where they are weak. So, I wanted to start by posing the question to you all by seeing what are your strengths and weaknesses. And we've all had to answer this question before, and it sounds familiar because of these principles we're reading in this book. When you go to an interview, they want to hear what you have to say are your strengths and weaknesses. So you can pick anywhere between 1 to 3, but I would love to hear from you all with what your strengths and weaknesses are. Okay, everybody's still thinking. Okay, no problem. Okay, CJ's gonna kick it off.
I don't know. I wanna, and more so in work
Well, in
or
general, I would say, what would you say are some of your strengths and weaknesses? Like, if you were to enter into a partnership with anything, whether it's work or any kind of business endeavor or any kind of partnership, what would you say you are your strengths and weaknesses that you would be going into a partnership with?
mm, well, I think that the weakness that I would say is not speaking up when you're not sure. I mean that's a bad form of communication that you don't want to. That's a weakness, I think.
Okay.
Uh, Not saying no, just kind of keep going over exert. I'll drain myself without saying anything. It's like that suffering silence syndrome, and that could be. I would say that's a weakness, and um, strength is that I push myself really hard. I think that's a good thing. Is that I'm very loyal in that regard, in regards to partnerships, um, and that I think I'm doing bad at this. Okay.
Hey, no problem. And that's at least we have to start looking inward, right? Because you jump right to your
Right.
weaknesses, like, hey, well, I know I don't do this and I don't do that. But like you said, you also really push yourself. So you have a lot of strengths as well. So I'm gonna come back to you and I want to hear some more of those strengths
Okay.
while you keep thinking about it.
All right.
So, and even if you guys don't have a like three, maybe one strength and one weakness, we can say. So while everybody else continues to, oh, Tiny, I see you unmuted.
So I was writing it in my notes. All
Yeah, I
right,
know. I was like,
so
let me put these down in my notes too before I
I
forget.
know that's why I be taking forever, but I got it written down, so I think I got it.
Alrighty, well,
So
shoot
I would
away.
say that my strengths are like I don't know what you would call it, but just like organizational stuff, like the shit that I be helping you with. Like I don't know what do you call that? Like
No, definitely
uh
organizing. You're very organized.
yeah. Something like that. I'm good at like communication written wise and like connecting with people and talking to people, but like my weaknesses is oral communication for sure. I suck at talking. Um, and how CJ said about not asking for help, I wasn't even thinking about that till she said it. But yeah, that's definitely something that I need to work on because there's so many people that are willing to help you too, like too. So it's not like you. I always feel like when I'm reaching out to somebody, especially like Mo, like damn, I'm annoying the fuck out of her right now. But some people are like they want to help, so you just gotta like put yourself out there and let people know what you need help with, because nobody's gonna know unless you speak up. So that's something I need to do. Just trying to connect with people that can help me with my weaknesses. And then another weakness, I would say I'm getting better, but my time management and procrastination. It's a lot better now than it used to be, but I think with so much free time, because I'm like a stay-at-home mom, and all that, and I don't really go. I literally don't leave my house, so it's a lot of work to create your whole own schedule when your job isn't saying like, oh, you got to do this at this time, and your kids are like at school. Like I don't have any of that, so I'm really just trying to like structure my entire life based on what works best for me. So that's something that I'm still in the process of, but yeah, those are mine, I guess, for now.
Yeah, no, and those are really great. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. Did anybody else want to go next? If not, I will jump right in. And just to piggyback off of that, procrastination is definitely one of my weaknesses as well. I've gotten a lot better with it by, just like Tiny said, is understanding like I make my own schedule, and then also even looking at my 3-year-old, like I want him to have a productive schedule, like wake up at a good time and have a normal order of like being civilized, right? Like back in our day, we had to get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. like super early to get ready for school and go to school. And, that meant going to bed early and just having an organized day. You knew how I was about to go. So just being able to like set that standard for myself so that he sees how, that's how you should be living as well, rather than kind of just going with the flow. I was very much a go with the flower before, but I realized that, that's a great strength to have, to be able to go with the flow, but it's a better strength to have to be able to set the flow and be mindful of the flow and prepared for the flow, right? Because then you just are sailing a lot smoother per se. So,
Say that again. Say that again. Say it again. Whatever you just said.
you feel it? I said, what did I say? I said going with the flow is cool, but being able to set the flow and makes it a lot easier to sail smoothly. I don't know. I might have to go run it back and re-listen to it because I did say it real
That's
smooth.
whatever you said. I felt it. I heard like half of it. I was like, oh shit, I felt that.
Right. Now that we got the replay though, so we're gonna listen to it again on that one. But no, definitely. So those kind of things definitely have made me appreciate it, and I've also like shifted my mindset because, like you guys said, also a weakness of mine is I do not like to ask for help. I feel like some people they always have say one thing but mean another, and so I'd rather just avoid all of that. And it's like, if you want to, then you will, but if you don't, then you won't. And I feel like if I ask people, then they end up doing it but not really wanting to, and I would rather just do it by myself than be around people that don't want to be around. So not asking for help has been one of those weaknesses. So one of the things I do in order to help myself and also avoid procrastination is I look at it like, oh, this is going to help me if I do this now. Like, oh, if not, by me not waiting until later, until tomorrow when I'm going to have a bunch of other stuff to do, I will appreciate myself for actually doing it. And I literally do, especially like the next day when I'm doing something else. I always tell you guys, my biggest thing is like washing dishes at night instead of first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning when I wake up and my house is already clean because I cleaned it that night, I wake up like, go Mo, I'm so happy, like you go girl. And it's just like a kudos to me moment. So those are some of my weaknesses, and I would say some of my strengths is I'm very innovative. I have a great imagination, great ideas, and I had to realize that not everyone is full of these ideas. I used to think that the ideas that I had, everybody had or could have. But just like we just read in that book, that what they say, that too modest or the undue modesty that comes from that is something that I definitely suffer from, especially because I'm just a naturally modest person. So it's like I don't feel the need to gloat and need a bunch of like kudos, but for myself, just being super modest and thinking, oh, everyone can think of this idea, and that it's not as great as an idea as I'm thinking, because anyone can think it, has definitely I've curved that by understanding I'm innovative and my ideas are strong, and that's what makes me a great partner, is by being the person that can come up with ideas, whether I'm the executor or not. I have an idea, and I'm also really great at building teams, just like you guys all are here. And you see all the amazing things we've been able to do together, even when we were on Instagram and coming up with like virtual pop-up shops and like, putting these different pieces together. It's always something that I've been good at, as well as I'm very bold, which can also be a weakness, or as they say, that whole strong Black woman stigma in corporate America is very real. especially when you are bold. I'm very much the person that if I have something to say, I am going to say it. If I see something happening, I am going to say something about it. And if I have a question, I'm going to ask the question. That is just me. I can't bite my tongue. I can't think one thing and say another, and I don't want to. And that has been something that I consider a strength, although in my partnerships, I have seen how that then can cause, friction, because then others have to then be bold as well. So those are some of my strengths and weaknesses, though. Zay and Mimi, who wants to share next? Mimi.
Okay. Oh, I did it. Yay. All right. So thank you, Tiny, for that little, because I had some things going on in my head and I was like, duh, write it down. It'll be much easier. So thank you for that. All right. So my strengths: building relationships. I'm committed to a goal. Like once I get the understanding and I say yes to it, like I'm all in 1,000%. And then I am really strong at like researching / planning. Weaknesses are I'm more concerned that everyone else is comfortable with the plan. So after I've done the work of the research and the planning and I'm committed to the goal and laid everything out, now I'm like, okay, I feel better if everyone is like on board with everything and everybody's comfortable. But in a group, even if it's just a small group, not everyone's going to always be on the same page. And I tend to get uncomfortable and try to adjust and make everybody happy. The second is having unreasonable expectations of others. I have had, especially in leadership roles, and especially when I get hyped on something and I'm ready to like just go all in, I want everybody to be all in and I want everybody to have like the same work ethic and, kind of do the same things. And that's not reasonable to expect those things of everyone. And then the third one I put was perfection, AKA form of procrastination, because we've learned over these months that that perfection piece is just sometimes a out for putting off things because it's not where I want it to be. It's not this, it's not that, which is procrastination. So that's what I have.
Woo, Mimi. I'm glad you wrote those down, girl, because those are some good ones, okay? Especially with that uncomfortable one, where, like you said, always trying to fit the needs of everyone, especially as all of us who are starting businesses or starting these other things. It's like, I think we had that before too, where it's like you gotta set your price and go for it, right? Despite how others feel or anything like that, you have to know what you got, especially like you said, when you put in so much effort and then you go and give it to people and now you start trying to change things around to accommodate others. Such a good piece to hit on. So thank you for sharing those. Welcome, Jazzy. Right now, we are all sharing our strengths and weaknesses. So, CJ, had you had time to think about another strength? And then I know we still have Zay to go back to. So, Jazzy, you got a little bit of a few minutes to think of a strength and a weakness that you have. Miss CJ, I see you've unmuted.
Yes, so I thought about it. I thought about it being a motivator. I think when doing something, I think that's I'm really big about boosting and making sure that other people's idea, like boosting and motivating. I think that's a huge deal, and that um, it helps with confidence in what we're doing, especially if it's a partnership. I think it always makes it. That's one of the strengths that I have, I believe.
It is. And you do it so naturally, and it definitely, like you said, makes a difference because the way you motivate me just so naturally, it has always kept me confident, like you said, with even going forward with putting new stuff out in so many different ways. So, like you said, without you even realizing that effect that you're having, especially in those partnerships, it can be that powerful tool. So I'm glad to hear that you recognize that as one of your strengths because it definitely is. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Miss Zay, did you have your strength and weakness ready?
Yes, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm really trying to keep the kids out of their own room.
So I've been keeping myself mute because they get loud and they're trying to get into the door. But I want to get to my weaknesses first because I'm really trying to discover myself, honestly. So I really don't know what my strengths are. Like people can tell me what my strengths are, but I believe I have like a good two strengths. So I'm just gonna hop into my weakness and then see if I can think of another strength. But my weakness is I overthink everything. Like I literally overthink truly the smallest. Mo could tell all of you guys. She can tell me one thing and I'll be like, okay, cool. And then I'll come back like, okay, but how do you do that again? Because I overthink literally everything and it's horrible. It's horrible, but then again, sometimes it helps me. Just sometimes, but a lot of times it does not. Um, what else is a weakness I have? I'm a procrastinator too. I'm a procrastinator, but I have this whole like it's bad but it's good because I'm a procrastinator and that's horrible. But once I have like you know how you have a deadline, like you procrastinate so much and now it's like crunch time. I work really good under pressure. Like I'm like a diamond, seriously. I work wonderful under pressure. When I'm not pressured, I won't do it. So I guess that's a good and bad thing. And then what else is a weak? I don't even know. I have anxiety, so my anxiety makes me not, I guess, overthink still. So that leads back into like mental health. But I have really bad anxiety, so I'm like working on that continuously every day. A strength I would say I have is talking. I've always said that's my strength. I'm a talker. I'm a social butterfly. I can get along with a lot of people. So that's a strength that I have. But I really can't think of a lot of strengths that I have. And I should be able to, but I cannot for the life of me. So if Jazzy wants to go and then I can just come back on my two strengths because I have just talking. That's it. That's the only one I could think of right now.
No, and you hit some really good ones. And I like how like you said, one of your strengths is talking and being social. Those are super strengths, especially in this world that we're moving into. You know, I see you all the time in Twitter spaces and just talking and meeting new people. You know, a lot of people don't feel comfortable just starting to talk with anybody and reaching out to people in that way. So those are definitely some strengths that you have there. And I would say also overthinking, if it leads to procrastination, then yes, that's when it can turn into a weakness. But overthinking can also be a strength if it's analyzing, right? Because your questions that you always are asking are great questions because you like getting to that nitty gritty. So I would say that can also be a strength as well, with you wanting to get deeper, get to that root, and really understand what you're doing so that you're able to do things well, right? And also show other people. So, but we can still come back to if you want to think about another strength, and we'll go to Jazzy. Have you had a chance to think about a strength or a weakness?
You're supposed to give one or two.
You can give however many you want. If you only have one, then that's cool.
Okay. So for my strength, I think I'm optimistic and I feel like I can find I can always find a good in a bad situation, to kind of like stay optimistic about things getting better. And then I also feel like, I don't know what another strength is. So my weakness, I would say, is not not asking for help. When I need it, I try to figure out stuff on my own. And when I know I should ask for help, I'm just like, no, I don't know how. I don't want to. I just figure it out until it kind of like boils down to like, okay, I really, 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 really need help at the last second, which is terrible. But I'm working on it. And let me see. What else is I think my me being an introvert is a strength and a weakness. Because I'm not as social as I want to be. But within me being introverted, I'm always like analyzing people and, just making sure like, I'm aligned with people and like paying attention to people's vibes, spirits, all of that stuff. So I think that's good. And that's all I got.
Yes, and those were great. Especially, I like how we all always highlight one different thing that's just like a great point, and why I love having these different questions that everybody can respond to. Because, like you said, that optimism and just seeing things and the good in things that can come throughout other things, and then even seeing how you put that in your business and everything, and then even seeing how your weakness can even not be as much of a weakness in that sense. So really like that. Zay, if you had another strength, we can go to you. Otherwise, we'll keep on rolling.
I really truly can't think of one, but I just want to say thank you so much for gassing me up and saying how being social is a good thing, and just making my weaknesses feel like they're strengths, because that just made me feel good. I just wanted to add that. So I don't have
Yeah.
another strength that I can think of, but I really appreciate it because it made me smile so much.
Good. I'm happy because again, we can all see these weaknesses and see like, okay, I'm not proficient in this area. And just like I just read in here, we are not supposed to be this well-rounded individual that is just great at everything. We are super amazing at some things and we are below average at other things. So us just being able to take a second and realize that is what's about to help us in our next step, which is collaborating with others, because now you can go and collaborate with someone who excels in that area that you don't. So I'm going to read another snippet here from out of our book, but before I do, I'm going to let you guys know the next question that I'll be posing so that everyone can have a moment to think. Now, we've all been in collaborations before, whether it's a partnership or a project where it's been two people or multiple people, but I want everyone to think of one thing that made a partnership successful and one thing that made a partnership unsuccessful and made you think, I would never do that again. I would never want to work with that person again. Like, what were some of those things? And again, we can say just one for each. One thing that made a partnership super successful, and one thing that made a partnership just super unsuccessful and unbearable. So while everyone is thinking, Tiny, ready for that one, huh?
Yeah, because so for this, I just feel like it all just comes down to like vibes. Like, I don't know, like I just need somebody to come with that same energy that I have. Like, I hate going into a project. People seem interested at first, but then they come with that like lackluster shit. Like, like you're not even interested, you're not even trying to do shit. So I don't know if that's a good. I don't remember what the actual question was, but yeah.
You was just ready to say it like, leave it at the door. No, but that's a good point, and that's what I was saying before. Like, I don't even like, and I think that's why we all have that. I don't want to ask for help, because it's like, if you want to help, you will help, and if you don't, just don't worry about it. But we don't need no half stepping around here. Like, if you don't,
Yes.
keep it over there. So I guess that could be what makes it unsuccessful or successful. But we're going to come back to those. So everybody keep thinking. I'm going to read a little snip out the book, and then everybody can share one thing that made a partnership successful and one thing that made a partnership unsuccessful. And it doesn't have to be specific examples, but just like Tiny said, like something that would make it successful is them coming with that vibe that matches your vibe, and something that would make it unsuccessful is them not being interested into what you're doing, which even leads us right here to what we are reading about next. Let me see, this is going to be from chapter 4, or I said chapter 4, chapter 2, which is a common mission. This is something that's so important in your partnerships. So I'm going to be reading from page 45 and 46, where it says, although you and your collaborator must agree on your common mission, you don't need to have the same reasons for pursuing it. Successful partners often have different motivations for making the climb. This usually does not hinder the alliance, particularly if both of you understand the driving force motivating the other and working to see those hopes fulfilled. So, for example, it says, in the last years of his life, Ulysses S. Grant needed money. He was bankrupt and was suffering from terminal throat cancer. Mark Twain needed a bestseller for his fledgling publishing company. Their personal missions overlapped in their desire to see Grant's autobiography published. The 2-volume personal memoirs of U.S. Grant was both a financial and literary success, a bestseller of its time that earned Grant's family more than $400,000 and strengthened Twain's company. Grant and Twain had disparate reasons for wanting to see the book published, but they agreed and planned to send to the printing press. So, motivations are often unique and deeply personal things, which complicates the issue of agreeing on the goal. You can't assume your partner's motivations are the same as your own. There's a good chance that they're not. One of you may see success on a particular project as a chance to justify higher pay, while the other wants company-wide recognition. One attorney may want to win a big case to secure a promotion, while the other wants a chance to work on even larger cases. While one police officer likes locking up criminals, his partner most enjoys the daily interaction with law-abiding residents. In the best partnerships, both people not only agree on the mission, they understand why their counterpart finds it meaningful. You must also be careful not to assume that because you and someone else have collaborated well in the past, that you will also do so in the future. Collaborating with the same person can be drastically different experiences depending on the degree on which you are both working on the same end. You must lay the foundation separately for each mission. And I think, again, that was so important to touch on with this because, again, we understand, okay, we have a mission. We're all going towards that mission. But it goes deeper by saying, okay, well, what is really driving that person in order to accomplish that mission? Because it's going to be different for everyone. And that's why you can see different things, successful or unsuccessful, in a partnership. So I'll even kick that off to go into our examples on how this affects successful or unsuccessful partnerships. So one example I can use is, I like I said, one of my abilities is I'm bold, but I also am very particular and a perfectionist and like to get the job done. And if it's possible, then I like to do the best that I can. So, like I said, that then puts pressure on everyone around me to do the same. So, especially if I have someone that is like supposed to be my partner but is like a superior, then they have to do their job as well. So something I seen unsuccessful was when I was working as like an administrative assistant for one of these convention centers, and it was my job to basically forecast how much we were going to spend on putting together the conference, and that included like the labor costs and all these different costs. But it wasn't hard to estimate that kind of stuff. You just input it all into the system. But where the flaw was I was hired because the person who was training me was not able to do that for whatever reason. You know, it's an Excel sheet. You just put all the information in, and again, you have to just be organized and put it in correctly, right? And pay attention. And it, again, wasn't too difficult, but it does take a specific attention to detail to double check your work, make sure you're doing everything right. But my counterpart was always wrong, and wrong by big differences. So when I got hired and I was doing it all correct, then I started realizing she was sabotaging me and started like changing around the spreadsheet. So it's like I would have to send it to her and then she would send it off. And I only realized I was being sabotaged because I'm like, this is not making sense on how it's all of a sudden wrong. So I would save a copy and then look at the copy that like my boss would look at, and it was different. So that was something that I seen unsuccessful, and that's when I realized you have to be mindful in these partnerships, because again, our mission should have been the same on, we just want to make sure the cost is right so that we can prepare, for our conference, where that wasn't her mission. Her mission was trying to elevate past an assistant, right? She wanted to become another level, whereas if we had the same common objective of just putting together this awesome conference, we would have been on the same page. But because her motives were different than the mission at hand, that's where that conflict of interest came. Where on the contrary, some things that I've seen in a successful collaboration is those same drivers. Like, for example, for the Raw realm that I've built up, it's like one big mission I've set is to help everyone change from physical to digital. So I've made it a very broad mission, but in a way that everybody can use whatever they have to bring to that table, understanding like everybody can come and bring something different. And I've learned that because, again, I don't like that competition, and I'll group my last blurb up into that word of competitiveness. When your partner is competing with you, then it leads to just unsuccess, because that's not like you're not competing with each other in a partnership. So that's where that downfall. So instead of setting up this, we're all going towards the same goal with the same abilities, changing that to say, okay, we all have the same mission, but you can do it in any kind of way so that everybody can come and bring their own gifts, is something that I've seen has made the partnerships really successful. Because then you have people like Zay who's in there, and again, super social and super detail oriented as well. That's another strength of yours, Zay. You're very detail oriented. So again, with the questions and making sure the bases are covered, and then also acting upon them. And I say that's all of our strengths, is that we all want to see people acting upon it. So we put it out there and then are around people that are executing and bringing the mission to life. So those are some of the things that I've seen in an unsuccessful collaboration and a successful collaboration. Does anybody have anything else they want to share about unsuccessful versus successful collaborations? I know Tiny had kicked it off with the vibe. CJ, I just seen you unmute. Mimi, I see you unmuted.
CJ, did you want to go?
Oh, I'll make it quick on that. I definitely say a successful collaboration, and I'll probably pulling in the energy from going to work, is just communicating what the expectations are up front and doing check-ins. It's kind of like an accountability piece. I found that it's the term for that. Keeping people honest with just where you are, how far along are you, and it's almost that motivating piece. But at the same time, if you keep touching in, then you have to kind of keep reporting back, and that always helps. And especially the group, it has always been helpful to be like, oh yeah, we got this piece, all these things in place so that we'll succeed. And I think that's what makes a successful collaboration. That's my thought. And unsuccessful is one that doesn't. So just the opposite of that in my head. It's just kind of like, okay, this needs to be done, and then somehow we'll get to the finish line, and there's no communication about how it happens. And that's my thoughts for collaboration.
Yeah, those are some really great points too. Especially, and I like how you said you drew that from work, but those are really important with, like you said, setting those expectations up front and then checking in with people to say, how are you doing? How is it coming along? Let's be honest now before we get to the end, and then we see, everybody's on different pages where you would have thought everybody would have got it, but you, like you said, setting it up front and then following through on checking in definitely makes a difference on how you can make that collaboration successful. So I love that. Thanks for sharing, Miss Mimi.
Yes. So one big thing for me is emotions. Lord have mercy. I can give you example after example where somebody somewhere, emotions got in the way of something and derailed the whole thing, the whole situation. And so I just always keep in my mind, like, everyone has things going on. Everybody's coming to the table with something, you know. Yours isn't bigger than the next person's or mine's or vice versa, but we're all here for a goal. We're all here on a mission. We're trying to accomplish something. And so you have to be a big girl sometimes and just, you know, leave those emotions, like chuck them at the door, leave them in the car, whatever you got to do, and just come together. And when people can control their emotions and they're mature about it, I've seen where things are successful. And I've worked with some bomb, like, powerful people, particularly women. And when I tell you, like, their emotional maturity is like, I've never seen it before. I would never know the things that they have gone through, sitting at a table or at a conference room or whatever, to get things done. And then I've seen other people that I've had to work with, whether it's at work or in business or what have you, and they wear their emotions on their sleeves. And it's like, you know when they're coming in, something ain't right, or you don't know. I had one particular instance where we didn't know who we were going to get each day. Like, it's like, okay, who's showing up today? You know what I mean? So emotions for me,
Yes. And
has been a defining experience.
And that is so important for us as females. Like, that is the discussion that my husband and I talk about all the time, because that's, my life partner or whatever. And I'm like, the only difference between a male and a female is that a female starts with fee, and that's because we start with our emotions, our feelings. So like you said, Mimi, having that maturity of being able to control those feelings and emotions, especially when it comes to business and decision making, it makes all the difference, especially for us as women. Like, being able to master that power and, like you said, check it at the door so that it's not messing up business deals or what you have going on. It shows, and it is such a powerful aura that you bring at that point, where it's like, nah, I'm here about my business and we're gonna get it done, and then we could talk about our feelings after, right? Because we could still talk about them later, because it is what it is. But just like you said, being mature in that sphere makes all the difference when it comes to relationships, and not even just for women, because men too. Like, once they let their egos and having to deal with men that don't even know how to deal with their emotions, again, you can just start seeing that, and how it starts to affect those partnerships. So I love that point that you made. Thank you for sharing that. Did anybody else have anything that they would like to make a point with what they seen in successful or unsuccessful relationships? Miss Jazzy?
Oh, Jazzy, you could go first.
Okay. I guess it kind of goes for both successful and unsuccessful, but just like identifying what the roles are for each party, to make sure that we know what we're doing individually, because I've been in situations where we're both doing the same things, and then when it came time, like somewhere along the line, the ball got dropped because we thought the other one was doing it. And so I think just establishing like what roles each person has, so that the bigger picture is accomplished.
Yes, I love that. Yep. And that even piggybacks off of what CJ said, was setting that up front, right? Like, I got this, you got that. Make sure everybody's comfortable with that. And then even following through on those check-ins, like, hey, you got your piece done, I got my piece done. I know, and there's so much technology now. Like, me and Tiny were working on the same mood board at one point, and now I'm using that for another partnership that I'm doing. And it's like, just like you said, making it clear, letting everybody know who's doing what, so that at the end of the day, we're getting stuff done, because that's what matters. That's why you even coming together with another person, because you realize that you got somebody that can be doing something else, because you got your part covered, right? We already identify what our strengths are and what we're going to be bringing to the table. So that other person needs to make sure they bring in their part so that we can be accomplishing these bigger goals. So I love that point that you made on just making those roads clear so that no balls are dropped along the way. Thank you, thank you. And Miss Zay?
Some things I've seen in a successful oh man, got that. Um, hold on, guys, hold on.
No problem. These has all been so great to share so far. I'm so excited for people to even listen to these replays because, again, as people are entering these partnerships, this is what they need to start considering, starting with your strengths and your weaknesses. There was even a questionnaire that they had here where it was like, you can do, rate yourself from 1 to 10. And again, a lot of people will see themselves above average in certain areas where it's like, you have to really stop. And y'all know we stop and be honest with ourselves. Like, where am I really strong at? And where am I really weak at? Identify that and then think about, okay, well, now I'm about to go and partner with somebody that complements that. And that means not always working with somebody that's exactly like you, because just like Jazzy said, if y'all both doing the same thing, then somewhere something is still not getting done. So then just getting able to work with others that are not like you so that you can start covering all the bases on stuff that has to get done. And then all the stuff that we've mentioned going into now, what will make that collaboration successful or unsuccessful, like setting those expectations up front. Because again, with you working with all kinds of people, and while we wait for Zay to come back, I even read this one quote at the beginning of one of these chapters here for chapter 2. It says, a friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship. And that's by John D. Rockefeller. And it's like, that is so important, right? Because everybody tell you can't go start businesses with your friends because it's not about to go how you think. Although that's something we all would love to do because it's what we would feel the most comfortable with. We all know how it's going to end in the end with them not holding up their end of the bargain and not taking it serious, where it's like, if you start a friendship from a business, now it's like, how they work. And even how we just read, just because it worked that one time doesn't mean it's going to work again. And that's why it's important to even assess your mission, right? What are you trying to accomplish here, and consider if that person is a good person for this that you're doing. And so just thinking about these things as we start to enter these partnerships is so important. That's even why we are diving into this book, and it gets a lot juicier the more that we read. But of course, with this being our first meeting, these are just those beginning pieces that, again, we have to start with as we enter into our collaborations. Zay, were you ready? Yes, perfect.
Yes, I'm ready. Sorry about that. So in a successful collaboration that like my personal view on successful collaborations is I usually try to get to know a person, like just to feel them out. As you said earlier, Mo, you hit it on. I didn't know I was detail oriented, but now I'm kind of figuring I am, because I like try to figure somebody out, to try to figure out their strengths and weaknesses so we can build upon that, and then whatever they can't do, I can do, and whatever I can't do, they can do. So that's literally how I usually do collaborations, especially in high school, because I haven't had a lot of collaborations to do with until the raw realm. But unsuccessful collaborations I have personally seen as like nobody seeing eye to eye on anything, and it's just like basically like two powerhouses that won't back down, and nothing's getting done because they won't back down because an idea is better than the other idea. So that's an unsuccessful one I've seen before.
And that is a good point to make right there too, with those, when you got those two powerhouses and it's my way or no way for both of them, it's not going to work. And in this book, they even give the example of like when Disney started and how they had two people that were actually running it, and they both, again, complemented each other. But in the end, once one died mysteriously and one took over and decided not to replace the counterpart, you can see how it has to have that balance somewhere. There has to be that give and take, because there is power in two and in that collaboration, because that other person is going to see something that you may not see. So when you open up that other eye, and can actually, like you say, get on the same length and come to some kind of consensus, that's then where the magic starts to happen, right? Because now you're doing things that may not have happened if you would have done it on your own. And that's what then makes this collaboration now powerful, by actually collaborating and putting in that work to make both views come a part of this mission. So I think that was a really great point to end on there for that. And I just got a little snippet here to wrap it up for our missions and starting these collaborations. So this is just farther here in chapter 2 still. It says, how can two people be successful working together if they don't move towards the same objective? How can a canoe be paddled in two directions at once? While a shared goal alone is not enough to create a functional pair, without it, the two people are working at cross purposes. A common mission unites disparate but complementary personalities. It elevates a working relationship above an arm's length negotiation, peaceful coexistence, or outright antagonism. So again, that just summarized everything we just said about how you have to have two paddles to make the canoe go, but they also have to be going in the same direction or having that same objective, right? You still, one is the left and one is the right. One you might have to stick to turn and the other still has to do its own thing, but having that common objective and respecting each that it's doing and each that it's bringing is what's going to make the power of two so powerful. So before we go, did anybody have any last words that they like to say about what we've talked about today? Any last gems or thoughts that you like to share? Nope. Awesome. Well, this has been a great